Welcome back, everyone, to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we have a fascinating technical breakdown ahead of us. We all know the tech landscape moves at literal lightning speed, and honestly, it's our job to cut through all that noise to find out what actually matters. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a highly significant, yet surprisingly quiet, new AI model release from Meta. We're going to unpack exactly what this is, how it works, and why it could fundamentally shift the entire developer landscape. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the unnoticed AI powerhouse. So here's a question for you. Are we completely ignoring the most important AI launch of the year? Think about it. Usually, when a massive tech giant drops a new model, it dominates the headlines for weeks. Our collective focus just instantly snaps to the latest updates from GPT and Claude. It's almost like the market has developed tunnel vision. But on July 9, 2026, Meta quietly released a massive update. This stealth-dropped model, called Muse Spark 1.1, is a fundamental leap forward that absolutely deserves our undivided attention.
Muse Spark 1.1 is Meta's Superintelligence Lab's newest multimodal reasoning model. But what's truly crucial here is the context of the launch itself. This isn't just some minor upgrade from the original Muse Spark that was locked behind a closed partner program back in April. No, this marks Meta's very first foray into offering a public preview through a paid API. Let that sink in for a second. They are now stepping directly into the ring to challenge OpenAI and Anthropic on their own turf. And just to round out the ecosystem, they even launched Muse Image right alongside it.
To really grasp the gravity of this release, consider this. Mark Zuckerberg literally broke a 3-year hiatus on X, formerly Twitter, specifically to announce this. You just don't break a 3-year social media silence for a minor patch. He touted Muse Spark 1.1 as a strong, agentic encoding model at a very low price, really highlighting its top-tier capabilities when it comes to tool use and computer use.
And that excitement was echoed right away internally. Meta's chief AI officer, Alexander Wang, cemented those high expectations by calling it the lab's strongest model for agentic encoding work yet. Look, when the leadership at Meta's Superintelligence Labs puts this kind of weight behind a release, it tells us we need to look very closely at the architecture making it all possible.
Which brings us to Section 2, inside Muse Spark 1.1.
1 million. That is the token context window for Muse Spark 1.1. For developers building complex apps, this is just a massive canvas to work with. It essentially means the model can process, recall, and synthesize an enormous amount of information in a single massive prompt. But having a huge context window is really only half the battle, right? It's how the model actually uses that space that makes the difference.
And this is where it gets truly fascinating. Muse Spark 1.1 is a reasoning model, meaning it actively pauses to think before it answers, and developers can even manually adjust that reasoning effort. But here is the real magic. It uses parallel subagents. Think of the main model like a project manager. It takes your complex prompt, builds a strategic plan, and then delegates those individual tasks to multiple subagents that work at the exact same time. On top of that, it's incredible at zero-shot generalization with new tools. Basically, it can figure out how to use a tool it hasn't even been explicitly trained on, right on the fly.
Let's move on to Section 3, pricing and market competition.
The technical capabilities are fantastic, for sure. But for enterprise developers, the ultimate deciding factor almost always comes down to dollars and cents. Cost is crucial here, and it brilliantly reveals Meta's aggressive market strategy. Muse Spark 1.1 is priced at $1.25 per million input tokens and $4.25 per million output tokens. They are deliberately aiming for that sweet spot. It sits slightly above the ultralight Claude Haiku 4.5, but it is significantly cheaper than Claude Sonnet 4.6. They're giving you high-end reasoning capabilities without that premium top-tier price tag. And just to sweeten the deal even more, Meta is throwing in $20 in free credits for new signups. I know, $20 might seem like a small number in the enterprise world, but this is a highly calculated incentive. The goal is to pull developers away from their established routines over at OpenAI or Anthropic and get them experimenting inside Meta's brand new paid ecosystem.
Next up, Section 4, benchmarks and real performance data.
Now, aggressive pricing is only going to work if the performance actually holds up. So what do the numbers say? According to Meta's own internal benchmarking, Muse Spark 1.1 takes the absolute lead, literally first place, in tool use categories, but it ranks third in coding and third in multimodal capabilities. So what's the big takeaway here? It shows us that Muse Spark 1.1 is really an orchestration-focused model. It is designed to manage tasks, seamlessly use tools, and direct subagents brilliantly, even if it isn't the undisputed #1 champion of raw coding accuracy. But as focused learners, we always need to separate self-reported hype from objective reality. While Meta's internal numbers look great, independent testing paints a slightly more nuanced picture. In those really complex, long-horizon agentic tasks, independent tests show Muse Spark 1.1 still lags behind the current frontier leaders like GPT 5.5 and Opus 4.8. We aren't taking sides here, we're just looking at the facts. The data simply shows that while Spark is incredibly cost-efficient and structurally innovative, it hasn't completely dethroned the top players when it comes to extended, multi-step problem solving.
All right, Section 5, Safety and Risk Mitigation.
With great capability comes a massive need for responsibility, right? Transparency here is absolutely vital for any kind of enterprise adoption. Interestingly, Meta's evaluation report contains a very important disclosure. When they tested the unmitigated base model, it actually hit a high-risk threshold in certain chemical and biological categories. That is a pretty serious red flag. However, after applying their safety mitigations, they successfully brought that residual risk all the way down to a moderate or lower level. This level of public honesty about a model's initial dangers and the safety guardrails they put in place is a really positive step for the whole industry. It lets developers know exactly what they are building on.
Finally, let's look at Section 6. Meta's new business strategy.
If we pull back beyond the tokens, the pricing, and the safety data, we really need to look at the macro impact of this launch. We are witnessing a massive paradigm shift happening right in front of us. For the last few years, Meta's entire identity in the AI space has been defined by their historic, open-source Llama models. They were the champions of just giving the weights away for free. But the launch of Muse Spark 1.1 kicks off a totally new era. Meta is officially in the paid API business. This is a direct commercial shot across the bow at OpenAI and Anthropic. Muse Spark 1.1 isn't just an underrated model release, it's the foundation of a brand new business strategy for the company.
Which leads us perfectly to our final thought for today. Will Meta's aggressive shift to a paid API eventually dominate the enterprise developer space? Think about it. They have the capital, they have the massive infrastructure, and now they have a highly competitive, cost-efficient agentic model in Muse Spark 1.1. It may have flown under the radar a bit at launch, but it is undeniably a formidable tool. Thank you all so much for joining me for this complete analysis. If you value this kind of structured, hype-free explanation, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next breakdown. Until next time, keep learning.